The next step is to create a middleware. We'll create two middlewares, one for JWT security and one for JWT refresh. So first comment is run this comment here, PHP artisan make middleware JW2 security middleware. Okay. Second one is JW2 refresh middleware. Right. Open the middleware file, HTTP middleware folder, and you see the two middleware we have just created. Open JW2 security middleware first. First of all, import the user token model. Use app model user token. Okay. We will define how to handle this middleware in function handle. We'll import different packages for JWT both from PHP open source 7. Right. Now, let's explain what we have done here. First of all, every request coming from any endpoint in our application will go through this middleware. So for every request, we will get the payload using method JWT AuthController get payload. So for every request, we will get the token, the JWT token, and from the JWT token, we get payload. You need to know that every JWT token, let's explain it here. Every JWT token is composed by a header, points, a payload, and finally a signature. Here. So it is frequency for JWT token. All information are in payload. So we need to get the payload here using this method JW2 pass token. In the payload, we get the JW2 token unique ID. And we can also get the user ID using payload get sub. Okay. After that, we get the records from our database by checking the user token. So this line. When we get the token record, we check if it exists. If it is not, if not, returning 401 token unauthorized. Check the expiration by datem. If token exists, but it is already expired, then return also error message session expired. Remember that is expired is a method we have defined a user token model. Here is expired. And we check if the expired at is less than current datetime. Okay. We can also check the IP address. So if a user token IP address is different from IP address coming in the request, then we can just log it and say, hey, IP address mismatch. So it is new location. We are logging from a new location. Uncomment this session and return an error suspicious IP address detected. If not, just log it as a warning. Finally, we update the timestamp of the last connected time for the user here. And for every error we encounter, we check if it is a token expired exception or a token invalid exception or a JW2 exception or any else exception here. So That is what we do in JWT security middleware. So first of all, we get the payload. Next, we check if the token is already expired or not. We also check the IP address, so the location. And finally, we updated the last time connected from using this token. In JWT refresh middleware, let's add these lines of code. Request. We will import the packages. Okay, let's import the area. Right. For JWT refresh, we only check if the token is correct, but only expired. So we get the payload here, JWT pass token. Mhm. So if the payload exists and signature so correct, okay, you can continue. If not, that means that token is already expired. Here we can just say token exists and has a valid signature. If token is expired, we can also continue. If token is invalid, then return an error. No token detected. Okay. Wow. This middleware will use only when a user requests for a new token. Now we need to register the middleware, so the Laravel app will be aware of them and we can use them in routes and controllers. Let's go in the Bootstrap folder. So from Laravel 11, you go in Bootstrap folder and files. Okay. Now you can come here in the middleware. That's with middleware. Here we will add this information, middleware alias. Okay. Oh, just okay. Middleware alias. First one we'll name it JWT security. And then it corresponds to app HTTP. Okay. Middleware JWT security middleware. Yes. Second middleware is we call it JW2 refresh, and it is JW2 refresh. Okay. Here you can give the name you want. You can call it JW2 security, or you can also call it my custom JW2 security or JW2 check-in, whatever you want. In my case, I just call it JW2 security. Okay. Now the token, now the middlewares are registered in Laravel. Now we will implement authentication methods in AuthController. In AuthController, we will implement login methods, register methods, refresh methods, and okay, I think we're good. And also logout method, but for logout, we will do it in another controller. So let's start with login. Public function login. and login, take a request. Okay. Let's import our model user and user token model. We also import some packages such as auth, validator, string, JWT auth, and token expired exception. Okay. Now, first of all, we will implement validator. So in login, we will validate inputs data. After that, we will get the user, and after that, we will generate a GTI, let's say a custom GTI, and next step will be to limitate number of active sections, and finally save the user token and go. Yes, and return login credentials. Wait. First step is to validate input data. We'll use validator class of Laravel. So that is what we do here. So validator check for email. Email is required for login, and it's be of type email. Password also is required. If validator fails, then return a validation failed error. Here. Next is to get the current user and check if user exists. From the email, we check if this email exists in our database. If this email does not exist, then return user not found 404 exception. Simply. Instead of get user, we go for check the user email address. Okay. Now we need to generate a custom JWT token identity. ID, sorry. Then this, then this. Okay. We will generate a random string. So here it is a random string, simply. And custom claims GTI, and we put it in. Now we will auth the user using this custom GTI. So claims custom claims attempt login with email and passwords. Okay. If login is a success, then JW2 package return a token. So if success, JW2 auth, sorry, return a new JW2 token. If our passwords incorrect, then return login credential are incorrect. So this step is to limit the number of active sections. Let's create let's create a new method. Create here a new method to limit active user session. Okay. We'll get all active token of a user, count them, and if it is more than, let's say, 5, we will revoke one token. So we will automatically delete one token here. Okay. Then we can come here, limits, let's limit it, let's limit. Let's call these methods here. This limit active session user ID and 5. We can also say tens or 3. Now we need to save the user token in our database. User token creates user ID, GTI, IP address, user agent, last used at, and S plays at, yes, we got TTL 1R, yes. Good. Now return login credential, return response, JSON, okay. This, go to home rights, okay. Now the message, user elected or user logged in, token, the access token will be token. User will be user, and token type, we can also the token type, which is bearer. Okay. And finally, is in, we need to get its what API factory TTL. Now we have implement a login methods with refresh token. Okay. Now we are good. We can go for register. Okay. To register, it will be same thing. Public function register request. Okay. Okay. Here is what we have in register. Right? Explain it. First of all, we need to validate the input data. To register a new user, we need to validate the input data from here. After the validation, we need to check if the email already exists or not. If it is already exists, just return email already exists or if not, then let's create a new user here. For hash, yes, we need to add hash page. Okay. In data is just an array, and we put all input requests in that array. Okay. And then we can just call for user create and put as data as parameter. Okay. Now we need to generate a ETI. So generate ETI here. After that, create token, create login or register token. After that, create user token here. And finally, here, register new user codes. User registered. Last method is for refreshed. To refresh a token, it is a little bit more interesting than just a login token. So here is what we can do. For refreshing, get old token from the payloads using this method. So JWT auth pass token get payloads. Okay. And also get all GTI get user ID. Then get the old token we need to refresh here. After that, if there is no old token, just token invalid. Here we need to check if the token is expired, is already expired. Already expired. So refresh it here is 14 days. Then we get it from here and we check. Here, first of all, we need to get the old token by using method JWT auth token get payloads. And with this old token, we check if it exists in user token table. If not, return token invalid error. Now check if the token is too old to be refreshed. Here, that's what we do here. If token is too old, just delete it and send an error token to old. Now we generate a new GTI and then we can now log the user with it. Delete all token, user, create new user token here, generate new GTI, and then call the method authquad claims refresh to get now the new token. And then we can create a user token in our database using the new GTI and the new token. Then we can return the new token refreshed. But if the token is already expired, it's okay. That's why we need to refresh it. Then we run the method, generate new GTI, log the user, and refresh the token. Then get the old token and delete it. And create the new user token in the database. If there is an error exception, just display it to know what is going on. Now you have implemented login, register, and refresh methods. Now we need to define the different routes to add and add also middleware in the routes. Come in API routes, and here let's start with login routes. So routes post login AuthController class login. Okay. AuthController, we need to add it here. Let's comment this out. We don't need it. You can also delete it simply. The next route is register. So register route. And the next is refresh for refresh token. But for the refresh route, we will add JW2 refresh middleware. So add this middleware JWT refresh. Okay. For the product route, we add it in a middleware. So route middleware. First middleware is API, authentication API middleware. We need to be authenticated before accessing the product. Then second middleware is JWT security. Then we can now go function. Okay. And here we will define route. Okay, get. We can also do route post product. So, okay. Now in product controller, we need to add the middleware. Also, so here we can add public function constructs, and then in the constructor of the controller, we say this middleware auth API and JWT security. So in the constructor of a controller, we define middleware for auth API and JWT security. And as you can see, there is an error with the middleware. It's because in a recent version of Laravel, from Laravel 12, you need to rewrite something in controller base. So come in controller file here, as you can see, it is empty. You need to add some validation. We will add two requests: authorize request and validate request. Then we can use authorize request and validate request. And controller extend base controller. Okay, now we are good. So, and you can see the error is just gone.